All right, so this month in Rotary history, not near as exciting as the dad jokes from Andrew. Thought you'd appreciate that. Oh man, I should have made that way bigger. Way bigger. All right, so since nobody can read that, to include me without glasses on, so August is designated by Rotary International as a membership and club development month. So we'll see if anybody can read these next ones. That is not going to pop up. There we go. Good. All right. So invite prospective members. Great, because we got a handful of them here today. So you guys are already on top of that. Beautiful. Appreciate that. And then share Rotary's impact in the community. We can do that how some of us are already doing that by talking to folks when we're out and about at events. And then for anybody that loves to use social media or anything else, another great way to put it out there as we're doing service projects. Collecting things for service projects and all of that. I think I just broke it. All right. Hot cakes and holly. Do I have the right date, Roy? Yes. He wasn't here last week to call me out if it was the wrong date. So
I've forgotten now.
Don't use the one I put on there because it's probably not correct.
It was wrong. And I left it that way, so that's my fault. All right. So next meeting for hot cakes and holly. I do not know off the top of my head. And I'm looking
Next week.
Next week.
The 11th.
The 11th. Starting at, are we doing 11:30 or 11 o'clock?
11. 11:30 probably at this point.
11:30.
11:30 next week, next meeting. All right, and I'm going to let Roy jump up here and introduce our guest. Thanks, sir.
Our speaker today is Jamie Langley. She is a licensed clinical social worker. She has spent 37 years in this field of mental health, some in Smyrna, some in Murfreesboro. Her specialties are creative and expressive art therapy, ecotherapy, which is nature-based therapy, play therapy, sand tray therapy, which I'm kind of curious about, and working with teens from age 3 to 17. She presently is with MTSU in the Department of Social Work, and she teaches clinical courses in this field. She's presented nationally and internationally within her clinical specialties. She serves on several boards and leadership positions. This was interesting. Her recent work with Healthy Parks, Healthy Person Tennessee led her to be included in their 2022 PBS documentary to advocate for children and their families to spend time in nature for their emotional well-being. Jamie's been married to her childhood sweetheart for 37 years. She has 2 children, 2 sons, and a daughter-in-law. So I suggest that you take a deep breath and hear why mental and emotional health are critical to your overall health. Thank you, Jamie, for being here.
All right, that's great. I know I told Dr. Thompson when he was telling me about doing this and about the 20 to 25 minutes is that shorter presentations tend to be harder for me than longer because I have a lot to talk about. I get passionate about the things that I love and enjoy. And so at some point, Dr. Thompson may just have to say, stop. And then, because we are going to have a little bit of time for question and answers as well. And I do just want to say a little hi to John Mitchell over there. So it wasn't in my bio, but we have the past connection of our Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. I was a Cub Scout leader for 15 years.
The best.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, my husband was our Cub leader, or I can't even remember what it's called now, Cub Master. Yeah, Cub Master for a long time. So it's good to see you. So mental health doesn't always get the attention it needs. Many times there's other types of health that we talk about a little bit more. So I'm glad to be able to share some things with you today. And as was previously mentioned, so it is August. Believe it or not, it was kind of like it happened over the weekend. I'm like, I can't believe it's August. I don't know if some of you are like that. But I love that I've found this picture that says, welcome to a month of possibilities and new beginnings. And it is that time we think about going back to school. So if you're working with children or teenagers at all, or college students, about get back and just kind of getting back on track. That's what a lot of my families talk about. They enjoyed the break. We love the break. It's also good to kind of get back on track and back in our schedules because those generally help us. And then I also found this thing. It's a about beautiful, ordinary things. And I love that. Also, just to let you know, it's my birthday month. We did the birthdays a while ago, and my husband says I celebrated all month. Even last year was a harder birthday. I turned 60 last year, and anytime we have those birthdays with the 0, I just think they're hard. And so 2.5 weeks before, I planned a trip to Germany and Austria, like last minute, because I'm like, I got to do something big for this birthday. A solo trip. Sound of Music was also turning 60, so I'm like, we're going to just kind of embrace this and go with that together. And then I also wanted to share, because it's kind of neat by being here. So 7 years ago yesterday, my youngest son, Andrew, got married here at Carriage Lane Inn. So we were doing our, the reception, the rehearsal dinner and everything. And then the wedding was outside, one of the hottest days of the year. But there's lots of shade, and it was a wonderful place. So it was like, this is kind of neat. It's hard for me to believe he's been married 7 years. They've been married 7 years. And one little thing I was going to share about that just real quickly, because one of the things I'm going to talk about is our passions. And I put over here, so this is love. And I think anytime we see our children happy, and getting married, just one of some of those celebrations. But I want to tell you about a little gift he gave me. So I'm also a Cinderella fan. I'm a mom of boys, and here I am, a Cinderella fan. So I hope I have a granddaughter someday, and I hope she likes Cinderella, because I have a lot of things to pass on. And we were getting ready to walk down the aisle for the parents, my husband and I, and the song comes on, So This Is Love, which is the song from Cinderella. And my future daughter-in-law, who's right next to me, she said, this is Andrew's gift to you, all about love. This is all about love today. And I was just like, oh, so even boys can be sentimental and love things like Cinderella too. So I just wanted, that was just a little special memory. And also when Dr. Thompson talked about, for August, doing things about health, I don't know if you knew this or not, but it is National Wellness Month. And wellness tends to be what we talk about with health now, about health and wellness. We're trying to do things preventive and be more proactive rather than reactive. What are things that we can do to help have better health and better wellness? Now, this shows 6 facets, and this month you're going to be talking about 4, because usually what we do is we put mental wellness and health along with emotional wellness and health and our intellectual or cognitive wellness and health. We usually put all those together under the mental health category. So then we get the 4. So you're also going to be hearing about physical wellness, social wellness, and spiritual wellness. And I use Dr. Thompson, I use your words, the 4 pillars of health and wellness. And you may notice that there's 5 little symbols right there. I couldn't find one that just had 4. And again, we're going to put emotional and mental, they go hand in hand. So when you think about mental health, think about the brain and the heart. What are the things that are good for our brain? Why our brain? Our brain is what connects us to so many other facets of our lives and our body. It's connected with our feelings. Our feelings have a lot of relationship with our brain. And then, of course, our heart. Our heart is where we hold a lot of our feelings, right? So if we can do things that are good for our brain and for our heart. So again, also social, physical, and spiritual that you're going to be talking about in the next few weeks. And together, those are about our health and wellness. And here's the thing, they don't operate on their own. So one of the things I talk with my social work students about, we do something called biopsychosocial spiritual assessments when we're treating people. And so we're going to look at what's happening with them biologically, medically, physically, all those things. We're going to talk about psychologically, mentally, emotionally. We're going to talk about socially, relationship, support, and then also spiritual. And sometimes my students actually do question spiritual. Spiritual does not have to mean religious. It can, but it also can mean a deeper connection to a higher power, to nature, to your own moral compass and values. And all those are important, but they overlap. It's hard to have a medical issue and not have a psychological or emotional component along with it. Social. It's hard to have social issues without having psychological, emotional components with it. And spiritual as well. So they all kind of overlap. They can impact each other. Think about dominoes, except in a straight line. They're kind of like in a circle, and they keep impacting each other over and over again. So when you touch one and it touches the other, there's some impact. Just looking at some of the causes of mental health issues, because sometimes that's the questions about what is it that's happened, and there's all kinds of different things. So just like we inherit our hair color, skin color, eye color, sometimes our physical stature, build, we can also inherit emotional tendencies. We can inherit certain things that may be a little bit more challenging, like anxiety and depression. Those are inherited. There's other emotional and mental issues that are inherited. Does anybody want to guess what the #1 mental health condition is right now? Anybody have a guess? It could be, and it's definitely related to the bigger issue.
Probably depression.
It's that second. Depression is second.
Anxious.
Anxiety. And the thing that's, I think, very interesting about anxiety is that all of us probably have experienced moments of anxiety. We may not have a fully fledged like anxiety disorder, but we may have had moments of anxiety, which can also include worry. Who in here hasn't worried about something? I said, becoming a mom, my middle name became Worry. I say that joke because, and it doesn't matter that they're 29 and 31 now. My oldest son lives in Boston. And we were talking last Sunday, he calls every Sunday. We were talking last Sunday, he was talking about he's been taking up sailing. That's something to do. He took up skiing in the winter. And I'm like, I'll never get him home from Boston. He loves all these things. And I'm like, how dangerous is that? And realize your mom is asking you the question with that. So, right, so there's a level of worry that I think it often happens in everyday life. And anxiousness. I had it today. The guy that mows the lawn happened to show up 20 minutes before I was supposed to leave. And I'm like, please get done, please get done, please. He wasn't done. I'm trying to flag him down. I'm sure the neighbors are like, what is she doing? I'm trying to flag him down. Finally, he's not. So I just ended up driving through my yard anyway, so that I could get here somewhat on top. There was some anxiety there. And then the noon traffic through Murfreesboro, I'm like, oh. So I sent Dr. Thompson an email. I am on my way. I am coming. So we all probably have some times of that. What about stress? And there is such a thing as good stress. There can be good stress and negative stress, but all those have impacts on us. The cortisol levels that rise with us because of that. So even, like I said, even if we may not have a full-fledged anxiety diagnosis, we can all probably relate to anxiety in terms of as a concern. Depression was a second one. We may not have depression, but we may have had some times of sadness, times of grief that with prolonged and different things could lead to a depression. But organically, some people are born with this predisposition to that. Now, sometimes there's certain situations that activate it. So not like in a same family, not everyone may inherit the same thing, just like they don't all inherit, right, the same eye color or hair color or build or different things. There's also things, so there's biological factors, and again, sometimes those are genetic, but it's just some chemical imbalances. There's things in the brain, like when I talk with my children, the kids that have ADHD, we talk about it's kind of like your socket is not quite going into the plug. It's kind of going around and around, and so, but it's not quite getting connected. It takes a medical intervention lots of times with medication to make that plug stick and stay. So it helps them sometimes just to understand that. So understand that there's a biological reason for some of the mental health issues. Trauma and stress. I mentioned stress already with some of the anxiety, but trauma. We have things that we call big T trauma. A lot of us have heard of those, like being in combat, being in a car accident, being assaulted, right? Those are big T traumas. We also have things called little T traumas. Have you ever heard of little T traumas? And those are things that may happen over time recurrently. What if you have parents that are always arguing and you're hiding under the bed as a child because you're scared of that argument? That could be some of the little T trauma happening over being bullied at school. So again, I deal with children and teens, so these are kind of issues I hear about. But can even adults be bullied and intimidated in the workplace or other places? Yes, and when you have to do that over and over again, and again, I mentioned cortisol earlier. So we have this. Cortisol is a great hormone. It's what if I were to be out walking on a trail, which I love to do, and I see that bear, I'm going to try to run from that bear, I guess. They tell you there's different things to do with different bears. But, that's where you hear about the fight or flight, right, kind of things. Like, are we going to fight the bear? Are we going to run from the bear? All the different things. We're going to freeze. We're going to play dead, all those things. Cortisol is what puts that into action. But what happens if that bear is coming into your home every night? And your heart and your brain, and you're having all those things, you're fighting all that stuff within you all the time, and it does a lot of negative things. Has anyone ever heard of adverse childhood experiences? ACEs, and that's where a lot of the ACEs research comes from. So again, all the things that it can do, even as a child, that can impact you across your lifespan. So trauma, again, big T, little t, recurrent trauma, toxic stress, all those things can have a lot of detriment. Substance use. People that may have that because of a genetic predisposition, maybe in part of their body chemistry. Also, it can be a reaction to trauma and stress, the overuse of. So different reasons that someone may become addicted or reliant on substance use. Social isolation. So someone mentioned loneliness earlier. And we particularly noticed that since the pandemic, the more lonely. It's wonderful to be able to get back in person, right? Someone was asking me just yesterday, in a training that I was doing yesterday, and we were talking about how it's hard for me to think about. For 14 months, I did the therapy online. And you'd ask me even a month before that, Jamie, are you going to be able to see children online? I would have said, no, I need to see them in person. The governor asked us to stay home. So we learn things to do. Now I'm very good at telehealth. I mean, all of us have become very good at telehealth. We know now things to do that we didn't know before. So it helped us. We learned how to adapt. But boy, am I glad to be back in person. But that social isolation, and many times what I've noticed in teaching college students, one of the first things I ask them, and we'll be coming back in about 2.5 weeks, how old were you during the pandemic? Because it impacts people different ways. And I'm always seeing that. So at first it was like, oh yeah, I was in high school. I had students last year, I didn't get to have my high school graduation. I'm so glad to have my college graduation because I didn't get to have my high school graduation. As students age and get older, I'm going to have some of those that I have now that they were in preschool during this time or kindergarten. So those times when they were hoping to make those social connections and didn't as much, they were behind. We were putting up plastic things, having people be 6 feet apart, all those kind of things. Does that have an impact on us? Who in here has seen the movie Castaway? It's an older movie, a great movie, right? When he's all by himself on this deserted island, I don't want to give it away for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I think the movie's like 30 years old now. So hopefully I'm not giving away too much stuff. But what does his character have to do? Wilson. So the volleyball, great advertisers for Wilson Manufacturing, right? Because he named him Wilson because that was what was on the volleyball, and he had kind of like a face that had developed. He interacted with Wilson, and as crazy as that seems, it kept him sane. I mean, it really did, because we are geared, we are wired for social interaction. So again, that was his way to deal with that social isolation. And people will come up with different ways, but yes, loneliness can fuel a lot of mental health issues, a lot of mental health concerns. The medical conditions, again, sometimes having chronic medical illness. I know my husband struggles with back issues. That's a chronic pain. It's a chronic stress, so different things like that. And then traumatic brain injury. Sometimes we don't think about those. Those can have personality changes as well as cognitive impairments and changes. And so as you look at these different causes of mental health issues, do you notice anything at all? Remember when I talked about the overlap of social, biological, psychological, and spiritual, that a lot of these things, we see that, and that ends up impacting our mental health and our wellness. So as a social worker, what really attracted me to social work, and I do have to do a little caveat, Dr. Thompson gave me a little bit of an elevated status. I'm not a doctor. I have a master's, and I am in an EDS, EDD program, so hopefully I may eventually earn that title. But one of the things that really appealed to me as a social worker, so I was a psychology major at Lipscomb, and I'm talking about wanting to be a child therapist. And my professor, Dr. Paul Turner, said, have you thought about taking a social work class? And I hate to say this, that my first reaction was, have you seen the shoes they wear? Which I really, and look, here I am. But I worked at a shoe store at the time, and I had 3.5 4-inch heels that I love to go to. That's really not my go-to for a very long time. I'm much more about comfort now than appearance. But I'm like, I really didn't know what a social worker really did. I didn't really know. And if I probably asked you right now, I'd probably get a lot of different answers. Sometimes we're told that we're the ones that take children out of homes. And one of the things I say about that is when there's risk involved and a judge has so ordered, we protect the children to do that. We're following orders, though, about doing so. Sometimes it's about passing out welfare. Yes, sometimes, but you may not know it's less than 50% of the people that work in child welfare have a social work degree. We're actually doing a lot of other things, like as a clinical social worker, I'm providing therapy. Someone there may be a social worker that's advocating for people on Capitol Hill. And there's all different parts of social work. But so when I took that class, as you may have guessed, as a social worker, I did follow Dr. Turner's advice and take that course. The little caveat, he had me married to LCSW, so he knew the perspective of social work and psychology. But when I took that first class, I realized we didn't just talk about why we think about things, why we do things, but in social work, we talk about what are we going to do about this. So it's very much proactive about what can we do to help turn things around. Because isn't that what we really want? I mean, we can get down into like the causes of mental health and go, oh my goodness, but what can we do about it? Social work is also a strengths-based profession, so we want to look at what are the strengths. I mentioned adverse childhood experiences a few minutes ago. There's now, have you heard of positive childhood experiences? the research that we can have an antidote to all those awful things that can happen and can help improve things and actually become even much better by positive childhood experiences. So what are the positive things that we can do? So I want to think about a few things in the time that we have left about that. If you ever took a high school or college psychology course, you're probably familiar with this. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's still there. I still teach my students now. I learned it 40 years ago, and I'm teaching it now. But it makes a lot of sense. And as a social worker, this is where we'll talk. So first off, talking about what are their basic physiological needs. And something that's not on here, and sometimes that I kind of trick, and I know you can't really, you're not going to be able to really see that, but it's things like rest and sleep, food, some of the very basic, what do we need to survive? And sometimes we don't think about oxygen and air. So that's something I kind of stuck my students on. What's the usually not listening? Having good air quality. So having those physiological needs, then the safety. So having a home, having a place to live, being surrounded by safe people. As you go up this, so social, again, you're going to start seeing some of those other parts we're talking about with health, then self-esteem, and then self-actualization. That's the one at the top. That's the pinnacle. That's what we're shooting for. And so what I talk about my students with, this is really kind of when we're going from surviving down here to thriving. So what are the things we can do to actually thrive? Hey, anyone in here over the pandemic get tired of just surviving? I had so many people say, I even had a fellow professor come to me, Dr. Arda Postaway, at one point. She goes, Jamie, I'm just so tired of surviving. I'm ready to thrive again. So what can we do? Because is that part of our mental health and our emotional wellness to thrive? What are those things that we can do? First, it's actually really kind of taking the time to do nothing, which is actually doing something. What kind of world do we live in?
Go, go, go.
Busy, chaotic, go, loud. So finding a quiet space. I do retreats now for fellow social workers and therapists. I call them sanctuary and self-care retreats. I do 2 a year. And we talk about finding your sanctuary, that place where you can be safe and quiet and still, where you can really notice. And sometimes it can be a connection to a higher power, to God, to that, but it can connection to nature. It's also a connection to yourself. Do you think we often stop to take the time to listen to ourselves? Often not. So if you can find that whatever your sanctuary is, and maybe that sanctuary is a library, a bookstore, a coffee shop. I love all those. I also love my home. If your home can be your sanctuary, and it's not everybody's sanctuary. As a social worker, I know that. What are the things we can do to help it be more of a sanctuary? A quiet place in nature. I had a favorite spot as a high school student. Long before I knew about the benefits of nature, I would sit under our weeping willow tree in my front yard and read my book and have my back against the willow tree. And you know how a weeping willow just kind of draped and all that. So I still imagine that. So if you can, taking time to pause, be still, notice. Can you even do that during a busy work day? Yes. Close that door. Put away this thing, the phone that I have here to remind me of the time. But put the screens away and just take some time, even if it's 5 minutes. If you can add going outside, nature is it just enhances whatever we do. And there's research that shows as simple as 5 minutes outside, sitting on a bench, soaking up that vitamin D, but how much benefit that can be for your well-being. So even if you can just give yourself a little gift of 5 minutes like that. Deep breathing. Everybody in here familiar with deep breathing? Sometimes it's called square breathing, 4x4 breathing. I work with children. We do chocolate chip cookie breathing. I mean, whatever it takes. We imagine a chocolate chip cookie that's warm and we breathe in and we blow it out. But having times to deep breathe. So when you're in your sanctuary, even if you're taking your 5 minutes over your lunch break, whatever, just taking some time to deep breathe. This brings in the medical, because what is it doing to our heart? It's slowing down our heart rate. When we slow down our heart rate, more oxygen gets to our brain, and what do? We think better and we feel better. Just by doing something as simple as deep breathing. Now, sometimes I'll have kids, the kids sometimes want to challenge, oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. Well, then you're not doing it right. And we're going to do it together. We're going to price it together. Or you're not doing it in time. Because sometimes I have kids that are very reactive. They get upset, and I'm like, you got to do it before. Once that train is going, it's hard to stop that train. But if we can do it before that train is really going, so let's take the time to deep breathe. If you feel, like something's going to be stressful, taking the time to deep breathe through that. A relaxing visualization. So I mentioned the weeping willow. So I love to close my eyes and imagine being there again as a teenager, sitting under that weeping willow. But you can also imagine great places that are just relaxing. Like, how many of you love to go to the beach? Okay. You can close your eyes and imagine going to the beach whenever you want to. Because I say, we're kind of landlocked. We do have some lakes and rivers, but depending on how close we put the pedal to the metal, it takes about 7.5 to 8 hours to get to a beach from here. I mean, if we're honest about it, it takes at least that long. If you stop along the way, it's going to take you, about 8.5 or 9, right? So we can't always get to the beach as often as we want. But cognitively, can we get to the beach? And what I'll do is when I have people do a visualization, I want you to think about, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you taste? What do you smell? What do you touch? All the things around. That's a very grounding activity. With a little caveat, be careful about taste. Sand's not going to taste very good. You can imagine the clouds. Kids love to imagine clouds tasting like cotton candy. That's one of the big things I get with that. So you can imagine those kind of things. Those are very grounding things. So that even if you can't be at those places you want to be, I love to be at the mountains. Imagine the mountains. Imagine a field of wildflowers, whatever it is for you. Imagine that coffee shop. Going there when you can't actually go there. So those are some things. What about sleep and rest? How important is sleep and rest? Now, I put both sleep and rest, because sometimes we just put sleep. It's that bottom level. So it's that primary level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is it important?
Yeah, vital.
And good, quality, vital. It's one of the questions in intake I always ask. It's one of the first questions I ask. How are you sleeping? If you're not sleeping long enough, well enough, it's going to impact emotions. It's going to impact cognitive ability. How many of you have ever noticed? I have 10 minutes left. How many of you have ever noticed that if you haven't had as much sleep, you're grumpier? You may be sounding more like Grumpy from Snow White 7 Dwarfs than you meant to, because you just didn't get enough sleep, or you're just not thinking as well. You're not being as patient. So again, sleep, if it's one of the things that you can actively change, if you can work on getting better sleep. And if you have impairments to sleep, getting medical attention, trying to find out what you can do to help sleep. If there's behavior changes that you can make. Again, we have to have our screens. I know that. So I'm not trying to make screens sound like the bad guy, but we don't need to have these right before we sleep. It's engaging parts of our brain that then it's stimulated, so then it's hard to unstimulate. So trying to have at least 30 minutes before bed where you're not on a screen. And that's hard for my teenagers and my college students. They don't like to hear it. Also, sometimes the earlier you go to bed can help too. Yes.
Whoever said you have 10 minutes is pushing you against the limit. I want you to
Yeah,
make sure you.
well, I was gonna say.
Okay.
I want to make sure you can take a question
Okay.
or two.
So just finish up in a couple minutes.
We have a little business
Yes,
after.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought that seemed a little long, but man, I covered more ground in quicker time than I thought. But yes, if you can act and also rest. So taking that time to if you've got a hammock, go out on it. If you got to, swing, go swing in it. If you've got a rocking chair on your porch, just take some time to rest. Be in relationship with others. Doing what you're doing here. Be in relationship with people that you love. We're living in a fractured society, and sometimes there's these things about, if you don't agree with me, I can't be in relationship with you. And that is so detrimental to us. We actually benefit when we're in relationship, even with people we disagree with. We learn more. Doesn't mean we have to agree with them, but we learn. Can we still love them? Yes, you don't have to have 100% alliance with all the things that you agree with. But being in a relationship with others, does anyone want to take a guess about how important is the relationship as a therapist with my client in terms of what I do? So if someone comes for me for assistance, how important is that relationship?
That's probably the most important thing.
Yes.
Because if they don't trust you and don't have a relationship.
If they don't feel safe with me, it doesn't matter what we do,
Right.
right? Because they're not going to take any of the advice I give. They're not taking any of those things. That's true for children across the lifespan. The research tells us it's 80% about the relationship. And that's what I really try to get my students to understand. We can learn about what to do, but if we don't know how to be in relationship, we're not going to be very effective. And again, that's true for all of us. So being in relationship with people that we love and people that we care about. Spending time in nature, I've already mentioned that a little bit, so I won't go into that. But there's over 1,000 studies now about the benefits of our mental health with spending time in nature. And I'm glad to when we have question and answers, to talk about any of that if we need to. Being creative. If you had any opportunities to be creative. It's a big concern I have with working with children and teens they're not very creative because everything's made for them. And I'm like, I had advice a long time ago by a play therapist that had been doing it a lot longer than me. And she told us, don't buy those castles and things. Buy the blocks so the kids can make the castles. They can also make bridges and fortresses, and they can knock them down and reconstruct them and all that. Finding ways to be creative. I'm a play therapist, so I got to throw in playing and having fun. Is that only limited to children? No, it's good for all. So if you don't have a creative outlet, if you're not doing something playfully, if you're not doing something to have fun, that's something you could add to your diet to try to help mental health. And this is a fun one to do, right? So when we're playing. All right. So now,
Here's what I might ask you to do. I know Jeremy has some business. You can stick around and ask some questions. So,
answer some questions. Yep.
yeah, so let's take maybe 2 questions now and then let Jeremy take over.
You talk about how important boundaries are to the social well-being and that particular domino effect it has if you don't understand.
Yes, and I'll tell you what, Dr. Vicki Hart's going to be here next week to talk about social health. So that's why you've got a different speaker every week to talk about that. And she can probably go into it more, but I cannot emphasize enough the importance of healthy boundaries. Not to necessarily hurt people, and that doesn't mean you don't ever see them again, but it may mean you set some times that you see them and you stay for a certain amount of time and then you don't. Or sometimes boundaries is, my workday ends at 5 o'clock. I need to stop answering emails at 5 o'clock. I need to go home and enjoy my family in my free time. One of the things I always said is that I did not want to put my children second after someone else's children. So I need to make sure I was there as a mom, because that's the only opportunity I get with those two. And then I can do other things. So sometimes that meant I would carve off an afternoon so I could be at my son's soccer game. Then those are boundaries, right, about family time, making sure that we preserve some of those. So again, I'm pretty sure Vicki's going to go into more of that next week with social, but it's a good question. And one more, yes.
One of the things that I've read about a lot about recently is how AI is taking over like a lot of online therapy and
Yeah.
outcomes are not good. So
Right.
how is AI affecting?
You know, one of the biggest concerns I and others have about it is that lack of a real connection. So when we talk about being in relationship with people, those are people that can be in relationship with us back. We get connections. Going out in nature is about being in a connection with nature. And then also, you know, I encourage families to go out together so they're connected together. AI is not real. It is not a person. So the limited things that I've had back about it, you know, what it spits back to me, it's spitting back what it thinks I want to hear because it's based on it's based on me. So it doesn't challenge me. It doesn't say, Jamie, that may not be a good thing for you to do, because that's not what the way AI is built. And so it can't have the fully enhanced relationship because it's not real. And so I'm having to tell my college students that a lot.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. All right, you guys ready for rapid fire?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right.
Hold on, get your bullets back in your.
So since I didn't see who did it, whoever said 10 minutes, normally I try to hop up here with 10 minutes left before we get done so we can all get out of here in time.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. All right, I went past it, my bad. Family or Rotary, some of you saw Lisa's, was it her mom or her aunt? Who saw the text with me? Phil's not here. All right, so Lisa's either mom or aunt broke her leg, 97 years old, I think is what I saw.
I think it's her.
Yeah, so that is why Lisa's not here today. So whichever family member it was, just keep Lisa in your prayers because she's taking care of a older family member who just had surgery on their leg yesterday. Anybody else, Family Rotary? Yes, sir.
Backpack event is this Saturday. Love to see you guys in the place. Me and Dr. Byron was together. She told me to go talk to someone that was delivering boxes. I went over there and talked to him. He knew me. I worked with his mother. They pulled up to my office with 500 boxes to feed families.
Oh, great.
That's
good.
Harvest.
Where's that event at again, Marvell?
107 West Lytle Street, right around the corner at the Cultivate Building.
At the Cultivate Building. And what time does that kick off at?
12 to 4.
Okay.
Free food. We have gently used sneakers right now, 100 pair. We got food. We got over 300 backpacks so far. I'm ordering about another 150 to 200 tonight.
Okay.
So
Great.
it's planning a big day.
Okay. Sounds good. See,
Everything's free.
great. See Marvell if you would like to help out with that. All right, we have this week, we do have buckets on the table for End Polio if you want to donate. And still doing the farmer's market, Regina's thing.
August 21st, we're doing our next show, next normal. It's a grown-up show. It's a heavy topic about mental health in an American family, but it's a good one.
And what time's that start at?
The show will start at 7:30.
Perfect.
First.
Perfect segue into before you go to that, go to Roy and Margaret's house. For Roy, would you like to say anything?
Well,
Roy knows
He did. We talked about it last week.
Pool, we're just opening up the swimming pool. If you got kids, let them come and swim. 4 to 7, we're gonna figure out some kind of food and beverage probably. So as Miss Langley said, fun, fellowship, and food.
So Roy Margray hit me up without me even asking about this. You guys remember, for those of you that were here a couple weeks ago, one of my focuses for this year is I want all of us to start hanging out a little bit more together. I feel like if we're doing that, service projects and things like that will naturally happen. So that is one of the reasons why we should be here, to hang out with each other. And so this is a great opportunity for that. So thank you to Roy and Margaret in advance on that one. Appreciate it.
And you're improving your mental health.
And we're improving our mental health. Very much so. Thank you very much for that. All right, and I think Phil already had to step. Oh, Phil's right there. Would you like to say anything about this briefly?
Yeah, let me come up there real quick.
I was looking for like a link to put up here with it, and I couldn't find
There
it.
isn't anything, yeah.
Oh,
This Rotary, the RLI, Rotary Leadership in Tullahoma, is with the other half of the state. This is the first time we've done this together. Mid-year conference in Franklin, district conference will be in Franklin. I'd encourage you to attend because it is so close by. But big news, because you know a guy who knows a guy. Not only our district governor is Jeff Brasher, and he lives in Franklin. That's why it's there. The next district governor is Keith Denon out of Hendersonville. He pulled me aside Saturday and he says, Phil, we want to have district conference in Murfreesboro. So in May or June of 2028, district conference will be here. And he said, Phil, I could use your help in planning it. When he said, Phil, I could use your help, he meant all of us. So congratulations, you get to plan district conference.
All right.
So that's it.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Phil. Appreciate it. As we have a little bit more information on this, I'll put it up. I know, depending on my daughter's cross-country schedule, I plan on being at that one. Be great for anybody else that can make it as well. And all right, next week we got Jimmy's doing the Prairie Plains 4-way test.
We have an official announcement.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna switch.
Okay.
Just give me a heads up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. I went through that kind of fast. I was trying to respect everybody's time. Anything that I missed? Pete, great having you back. Appreciate it. Welcome to all of our guests that showed up today. Greatly appreciate it. That dude's energy is like infectious. So if you haven't got a chance to talk to him yet, by all means do so. And with that being said, have a great week.